if you're originating in 2025, then what you better do is raise your game. The days of people throwing deals at you are over.
If you don't have the ability to change in any business right now, you probably shouldn't be in the business you're in.
People have always had to adapt. How long have you been adapting, Jeff?
36 years, 37 years.
I'm on this podcast with my man.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Welcome back to another edition of Laughs Underneath the Podcast. And we got a pretty cool lineup today, especially based on what was going on all over the internet this past week with this talk about this 50-year mortgage being floated out there like it's some magic key to affordability. And I was thinking to myself, actually, that, it's funny. Is like, if you think about Thanksgiving, and for me, I don't know about you guys, but I like to wear those stretch pants for the Thanksgiving dinner. And that way I don't feel as bad right after I get done eating. The 50-year mortgage is kind of like that to me, right? It's like you're stretching out 20 extra years. Are we really making affordability any better for the housing climate? Are we really making housing better, affordable? For me, the answer came back as absolutely no, we're not. We're giving 20 years of extra interest, all sorts of other stuff. But at the end of the day, this is not going to fix the supply shortage. If anything, it could cause more shortages in the housing market. And there's other issues that are going to be going on because it's over 30 years. So it's a non-QM product, meaning it's a non-qualified product. So for me, the 50-year mortgage, while it's really a cool thing to talk about, definitely if it's better than no mortgage, it's better than renting probably. But I was thinking to myself, and I know JP's not here to rap with me on this one, but I was thinking to myself that this is probably like two dads who got together, right? Because there's no other, like two men had to come up with this idea. Women are way too smart for this, right? And they said, look, let's give our wives something that will outlast me because I'm going to be dead before this mortgage is ever paid off, but she'll still be here. And this will be my gift to my wife is the only way I could think of how this would make sense. But I do have the one and only Mr. Mortgage Scoop himself with us today. So hopefully he can make me break this 50-year mortgage down. So here's James. How you doing, James?
Good. How are you, Fobby?
I think that's the one you like, right? That's your intro that you're very comfortable with. It doesn't freak you out.
Yeah, that one's pretty friendly. It's like it's digestible, like it doesn't freak me out. It doesn't give me anxiety. So
James, does a 50-year mortgage give you anxiety? Just thinking about that.
I did think about it. No, it doesn't. I think it doesn't really change the paradigm much for most people. And the reason I say that is because with a 30-year mortgage, the first 10 years, give or take, are mostly interest anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not really touching much of the principal at that point unless you're making additional payments,
right? Which
if you can, I would encourage that unless you're using that money to invest or finding, a better use for it. The issue is most people who would take this mortgage are probably not going to be financially secure enough to invest that money or to use it wisely. There are absolutely people for whom this makes sense, particularly in markets like the one I'm in New York City, where it could be a hedge against rent, right? So even though, yes, the interest payments would be high in 20 years, 30 years, whatever it ends up looking like, at least you're building some equity and you get the value of the appreciation on the asset.
I just want to talk about,
yeah.
This doesn't address the affordability. Like to me, like this is not an affordability solving program.
Correct.
And that's what it was rolled out as.
Yes. So it's one of many things that Bill Pulte, the FHFA director, has floated in the last couple of days. My read on this is it's throwing mortgage spaghetti at the wall.
Right.
So we haven't even talked about the assumable mortgage. We haven't talked about the portable mortgage, which is even more fantastical an idea. And I think, in theory, these are doable and they work in other countries to some degree. The problem is we have a system through which we securitize most mortgages. And an assumable mortgage, I think, go ahead.
portable mortgages, I mean, when I saw that I mean, like I was already kind of diving into the 50-year thing, right? And then I see this portable
Yeah.
mortgage thing that he throws out there, right? Like you're saying basically I have a property on XYZ Main Street.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move over to XYZ Star Street, and this 2.5% rate is going to go with me over to Star Street, even though the loan amount is $250,000 on Main Street, and I need $600,000 on Star Street. Is that basically what they're saying?
Yeah. I mean, like, there are no details that have been released. So, but I can tell you how it works in Canada. I can tell you how
Hold
it
on.
works in the
Let me
UK.
ask you a question. Isn't this the same guy who said that we should use Lysol to get rid of COVID?
I don't know. Maybe I wasn't following him before he became the FHFA director.
No. I'm talking about Mr. Trump himself.
Oh, Trump. Yeah, I mean the
Come
horse
on.
tranquilizers, right? Like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is just. I mean, look, we need real solutions right now, James. I mean, I'm
Did
just
you
being.
read the Politico piece on how Bill Pulte presented the 50-year mortgage to President Trump?
No, I haven't even.
It is a wild read. Basically, the whole White House is furious with Bill Pulte and think that Trump has had more egg on his face from this one incident than anything else, which is kind of like a mind-boggling thing to consider.
What about the Epstein files? I would think that's worse than the 50-year mortgage. I mean,
One would think, but apparently not in Trump world. And so, yeah, basically he like kind of came up to him with this 3x5 poster board showing FDR with a 30-year mortgage and then Trump with the 50-year mortgage. And it says something to the effect of like great American presidents or something like that, right?
oh yeah, he put that
So
up on
Trump,
his.
10 minutes later, he posts this on Trump on Truth Social and didn't even think about the consequence. I guess Bill Pulte didn't tell him about the potential negative reaction or the impact, which tells me one of two things. He didn't know, or he didn't expect the blowback from the MAGA people who are normally pretty supportive. But they were furious. Like even Mike Cernovich came out and said, like, this is stupid as shit.
Yeah, I mean, this is anyway. Look, I could do the whole 40 minutes on nothing, but I have been really like, you know what I mean? Anyway, don't worry about it. Let's anything else in the mortgage industry, compensation, any major moves going on in the industry right now, James, that you can share with us that only the Mortgage Scoop would know?
Yeah, I've been working a lot on reporting this idea of what we call dual licensing, and I know that you guys do a little bit of it at AnnieMac, and you do it a lot differently than this company that I recently covered yesterday. But in essence, it is this idea that a real estate agent can get licensed, whether through standard MLO licensing, taking the exam, or in the case of Orca Home Loans, that's right, Orca like Free Willy.
No, somebody called themselves Orca.
Orca, yeah. It's like actually orcas are badass, absolutely badass. Anyway, okay, so basically the real estate agent also does double duty as the loan originator. Now, in the case of Orca, I received an email from a rival LO whose agent partner was annoyed to have gotten this pitch from Orca, where it basically says, as long as you share this unique link with the client and they fill out a mortgage application, we'll do all the work.
Right.
You don't have to do anything. Now, I know a couple of lawyers in the mortgage world who say that that would be a violation.
Huge violation.
And this is to say nothing of kind of where we are in terms of 1099 LOs and some of the complicating factors on work duties. Having said all this, I think there's an interesting wrinkle here. One, these LOs, these real estate LOs would be making between 50 and 75 bips per file that they may or may not have to even touch. So you think about the risk involved in having someone's name on a file that they're not working whatsoever. Now, I know that there are definitely call centers out there that do this already, so maybe it's not that different. There are teams in which a junior LO is handling the vast majority, but I think that's a little bit different than having a real estate agent who doesn't know anything about lending working on the file or not working on the file, right? So I think there's some questions there. And then the second thing that's really interesting is I spoke to the founder of Orca Home Loans, and basically what he told me is LOs around the country should be very nervous about this because this is the future of lending and real estate.
Just interrupt you. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, did you ask him why he named his company Orca?
No, I didn't. I know I missed out on the good
Can
questions.
you get him on the show, man? I gotta talk to this guy.
His name is Dan Savage. He was very polite. He was really happy to answer my questions.
Is he in Virginia?
No, they have a virtual office in Philadelphia.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, look, we thought it was a game changer also when we rolled it out. I don't know. Maybe we're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Because a lot of realtors, what we found out, FYI, James, have a hard time passing the NMLS test.
Well, they don't have to here because they have a partnership with an FDIC institution.
Okay.
So they
Well,
don't have to pass any exam whatsoever.
Well, then they might get the upper hand then finally. Then that might be the way to do it. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's the edge.
All right, James. Well, we appreciate you always keeping us up to date. You know that you are always a thing that grounds me on this show, so especially since JP's not here to do that today. And I really appreciate you coming out here. So let me get you out of here and let's get on with the show. All right, James. Thank you, buddy.
Okay,
I'll see you next week. Thanks, man.
Okay.
All right, guys. Let's get to our show here because today we have somebody. I have two surprises for this guest. She has no idea. I know she can hear me. I'm just gonna call up here. Her name is Kristin Messerli. How you doing, Kristin?
Great. How are you? What are
Are
these
you enjoying
surprises?
Are you enjoying the show so far?
Yeah, absolutely. This is very fun. I love the effects.
All right. Well, look, check this out. I don't know if you know this, okay? You probably don't know this. You probably don't know this because you're too busy writing James Climate to correct your name on Housing Wire pieces.
Gotta stay busy.
So I actually invited you to this show on January 25th, 2020.
Is this Facebook?
It is.
Well, just can't do it all.
I was like, hope all is well. Although we've never met, I've been seeing you on social media for a while and have your content was intriguing. I was hoping I'd get you to come on this new podcast. It was very new. It's season 1, start sometime in February. Please let me know if you're open. And no response whatsoever. I was like, okay.
The amount of messages I have not responded to on Messenger is actually insane. It's like not that much better on LinkedIn. I'm sad to say. I can only do so much. And so
Yeah. No, listen,
I
I mean,
responded right away on text.
you did. You I was like, whoa, hey, is this a Kristin Messerli from 2020? Or
I'm still here.
no, it's all good. Look, I mean, the thing is I think there's always a time and a place for everything, and funny thing is that Barry Habib was my very first guest, and we all know Bear, right? And so I never hit the record button.
Oh no. That sounds like something I would do.
Right? And so he was so kind. Like when I finally got the nurse to tell him what happened, he was like, well, it's probably better because I'm ready with the book now to talk more, come back on your show. We'll talk about the book this time.
Oh, that's really kind.
Yeah, very kind of him. So Kristin, all right. I'm going to start off with the most important question. Since last time I met you in Dallas, have you threatened to murder anybody?
No, I don't think so. It just flies out of my mouth, though. Apparently, I
was
did
concerned
threaten
about. Yeah.
on stage, but he is a dear friend of mine, so he took it with kindness and
Joe is an amazing
it was
person.
out of love.
He's
What was
such.
that?
Joe Wilson is such an amazing person. I love
He
his
is.
person. You know what I mean?
He is. I would only murder him with kindness. He's the best.
Yeah, I think when I heard you say that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. She just said that at midnight. If anything happened to Joe that night, everybody would have.
Yeah,
You're like for like 400 people or something, right?
for the audience, his group was making really loud sounds out, of course, if anyone's ever attended one of his workshops, they, and so it was like drowning out my session. But what we ended up doing in the sessions following was I got my crew to make big sounds.
Nice.
And it was very, very fun. So.
All right. Well, look, let's get into this interview because I have a few questions for you because obviously, look, I mean, it's a 5.5, 6 year interview in the making. So a lot of notes have been adding up since then.
A lot has changed.
Yeah, but look, the one cool thing is that I've still been following a lot of what you do. And the way you always come through with your research, you know what I mean? I mean, it fundamentally changes you if you're paying attention to what you're actually putting out there. So I just want to let you know, as a leader in the mortgage industry, when I read your work, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, this is something that we need to be cognizantly aware of, and not just say, okay, it's just something else that I just got to pay attention to, right? I think before we get into the data and the psychology, right? What I'd like to find out is what made you go underneath, get granular to kind of tackle all that kind of from that perception. What drove you to that position?
Yeah. So, first of all, so appreciate you reading those reports. And I put my heart and soul into them. So it's always nice to hear that people are paying attention. And it has changed me. I mean, I think what's interesting to me and why I really started getting into it is I started when I was doing some consulting projects. I started doing research where I would go to different cities and actually interview as well as pull data. But I would talk to consumers and home buyers and understand like what is their mentality, where do they go to build trust and get information, and that kind of helped me understand. I don't know, just a different perspective around mindset, and so when I started doing these reports in 2020, and I started asking about like questions about trust and how people related to money. And I started seeing a shift in that. And I started just digging a little bit deeper. And it changed the way then I was helping other loan officers and people with their strategy, and seeing those results just made a lot of sense to me. And it's really driven continued depth in the research.
Yeah. Now you talk about how the younger buyers, so I think you said uninformed or not informed, or I mean, the lack of information that's out there. They're kind of using social media, right? Because I think obviously, younger people are going to be using social media more as the way to get knowledge.
Yeah. So it's interesting because they're both uninformed and really informed in different ways.
Mm.
But yeah, so there's one big piece here is this declining trust in loan officers, institutions. I mean, we've seen that drop from in 2020, we saw 2 in 3 next gen homebuyers say they did not think lenders were trustworthy or reliable. And on average, it's been that, but it's dropped this year to 4 in 5 thinking they're not trustworthy or reliable. So of course, people are then like moving towards other sources. And what we've seen is they've moved from the institution and the expert to people like me. So they're looking to influencers. And with Gen Z, I think it's 41% say, or something in the 40 percentile, say they trust influencers or is it TikTok? There's TikTok and influencers that are different numbers. I think it's 71% are turning to influencers for home buying information. And, part of that I think is this desire to understand what other people are going through, not just the one expert. And we were talking before the show about how we don't trust, we have to like be our own advocate when it comes to medical. It's the same mentality. Like you could be the best loan officer in the world, and we're still going to need to validate that information and feel like we're an advocate for ourselves.
But what's driving that distrust? Like, is it the 2008 that they saw their parents maybe go through? I mean, what's driving it?
Yeah, so that's what I thought initially. When I first saw the big distrust number, I was like, okay, well, millennials have entered adulthood during or right after the financial crisis. And I do think that has an impact, but I think we've had a societal shift because when I started taking a step back and looking at other industries, we've lost trust in healthcare, in media, technology, education, like every category, the trust is declining. And if you look at the Edelman Trust Barometer that measures trust globally, you're seeing that trust decline. So I think, as a society, we've moved from the institution towards the individual. And now I think AI is playing a big role here as well in, who we trust or where we go to for trusted information.
You just use the word globally. So are we talking like outside of America also, like in Europe, Asia, Africa, and all beyond, right? Like, are you seeing this around the world, this distrust?
Yeah, I haven't done very much research globally, but yeah, trust has definitely declined in developed countries across the world.
Wow. That's yeah. So you got to figure. I mean, hold on. So there's a part of me that always wonders this: is this something normal that we just didn't document before? Like, has there always been a certain right? Like
Yeah.
maybe like 150 years ago, 200 years ago, right? I mean, everyone always feels like, oh my God, this is the worst of times, right? The politicians suck, this sucks, and that. But when you read history, you find out everybody thought that.
Yeah. So what I think is different, I agree. I don't think that times are harder or worse or, I think times are documented. And but that does come with a unique set of challenges. And I think we're at a real turning point as a society because of this overwhelming access to information and transparency and documentation. All of that does change the way we relate to others. And you think about like Bowling Alone came out in like the 90s, this book that was really transformative in understanding how we've moved from a collective society where we rely on others to more individualism. And that's continued to just, go further and further into that individualist place. So anyway, I think we're at a turning point, but I don't think times are worse.
Yeah. I always just think like there's more information, especially with the news cycles, because I had elderly parents, right? And at a certain point, my mom she could not tell the difference between the repetitive news, and she would call me up freaked out, like they keep showing this guy over and over again, whoever the politician of that day was. And I was like, Mom, they're just repeating the news cycle,
Yeah.
right? Because they gotta air 24 hours of news.
Mhm.
And so sometimes I do wonder if we are just, to your point, like we're getting more and more information,
Mhm.
and we're recording history for the first time more granularly. Like
Mhm.
like nobody I wouldn't think 200 years ago anybody cared about whether you trusted the banking system or not, right? But today we do. And so
Yeah.
now we have that fact for us, right?
I think the difference though around trusting the banking system is that we didn't have options before. So previously you if you wanted a loan, you go to your local bank or your local lender and that's it. Your trust is it's in their hands. But now you go there and you say, "Okay, well, I should validate this. I should look up some other information
Mhm.
around this," and it's not just the one option. And that leads to where I think we're at an interesting time around this feeling of overwhelm with access to information. And it's to your point around the news cycle too. I mean, we have so much information that our brains cannot process all of this.
Mhm.
And in our latest report, we saw that over half say that they are overwhelmed by financial information, and over half of millennials and Gen Z are delaying major financial decisions as a result of that financial complexity and overwhelm. And those are the people that are self-aware enough to realize they are overwhelmed. There's a
Wow.
ton of other people that just kind of shut down and are like, I don't want to engage with this anymore. And so I think it goes to that point of like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, it is weird. Like sometimes I think like we've created this capitalistic society, and look, I'm a definitely a byproduct of our capitalistic society, so I'm definitely ingrained in it. But I definitely saw it especially during the COVID, but more so in the 2008 debacle, where everybody was depending on consumer spending. Like they would actually be horrified that Americans are saving more money.
Mhm.
Like, that should be a good thing. Like if people are saving money, shouldn't we be proud that they're saying? And they're like, no, because they're not spending it, and we need them to spend. And
Yeah.
so I see in the newer generation where they're like, spending more, like in Amazon and having food delivered and pay like pay over a period of 12 months for an $800 purchase, which I would have just saved up $800 to just buy something when I was their age. So is that leading to more of the kind of the distrust because they're being at such a younger age, also being asked to make decisions like that?
Yeah, I think that also is probably like something that goes back and forth. Millennials were more of the spender, we got to live life now kind of thing. And Gen Z tends to be more conservative around their finances. But I think that they are, while there's all these options, they're probably spending money differently than previous generations did. Of course, we didn't have the pay as you go or the food delivery, all of that in just a few years ago. But
We did have Domino's. Remember Domino's pizza was around.
man, yeah, and I I use that up, and I'm big on food delivery. But yeah, I think that again, it's just like there's so many options. So it's tough to navigate the financial landscape as consumers and as I think also as providers. Like, how do you build trust with a consumer like that?
Yeah. Well, let's switch over to this AI thing because you mentioned that in passing, right? And I don't want to not talk about it because you have to, like, anytime I have someone like you on the show, we have to talk about AI
Yeah.
because we're talking about trust, right? And we're talking about distrust. And AI is obviously a huge catalyst in causing distrust.
hmm
So how is like a mortgage companies or a consumer? I mean, does it affect the mortgage industry? First of all, let's start with there. Does the AI have a trusting or distrust causing mechanism related to the mortgage banking system?
So it's interesting you say that. I think it could build trust in some ways. I think you don't have to be on the other side of it. I've been teaching workshops on how to build trust in the age of AI. And so you use AI to, create efficiency in your work and different tactics to do that. And then also you are showing up as your most human self. And I think in a world of overwhelm where people don't, they're kind of feeling stuck and there's decision fatigue and all of that. If you show up with empathy, that's going to create real conversion and real action. So I don't think it needs to be opposing forces there. And I even think about when I had some health stuff come up not too long ago, and I had a doctor say, "Okay, here's your results. Go put this in AI. Let
Mhm.
ask it lots of questions, and then let's come and discuss it later." And so, the fact that it was like, yeah, go do your research, go use this incredible tool that's available to you, and instead of like, don't ask AI, don't do your research. It doesn't need to be opposing like that.
Yeah. So that is pretty cool. So we could literally give people some kind of documents and say, "Hey, go research this and figure it out and come back with your questions."
Yeah.
That's a
Give
great
them
angle.
prompts
That's a
to
great
you.
angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to say, I was trying to pull up this research point. So in January, we surveyed 1,000 millennial and Gen Z, and only 35% said that they were going to AI like ChatGPT for home buying information. When we did this survey in August, that had jumped to 61%. And I
Wow.
think there was another like survey that had gone out. Can't remember who did it, realtor.com maybe, that had seen that number go into the 80 percentile. So, we just know that that has risen so significantly, and we really can't ignore it. And I think it's very, very crucial that people are utilizing that to help themselves be more human, be more empathetic, while also supporting your consumers with this amount of, overwhelm.
So I think you're raising such a great point. Like if we do use AI, we could actually bridge that trust barrier
Yep.
because now we're saying, here's the information, you go research it and come back with what you find. And it's kind of becoming kind of almost like having a little bit of transparency,
Yeah, exactly. It's
right?
giving them that transparency. I think if you just have free for all, like nobody, nobody's involved, there's not a loan officer guiding them through, then they can still be overwhelmed by the amount of information available with AI. They can run scenarios and be like, "Oh, I don't know," and just shut down. But if you as the loan officer or the support there, you're guiding them through and saying, "Okay, here's your one next step. Take this one step." And then and then they're using AI and you as their kind of validation and information resource. You're guiding them through in a way that helps cut through that overwhelm and builds trust.
I think loan officers right now also have a bigger, like, what's the right way to say it? Like a bigger mountain to climb, right? I mean, I don't think people understand. And I've been doing mortgage since '94. And before '94 and '87, I was doing life insurance sales. So, like, literally since 1987, I've been selling. And if I had like YouTube and TikTok and all these other people as my competitors, I would actually be like, I wouldn't know what to do because
Yeah.
it does seem like the people that are using social media, and I know YouTube's not a social media, but let's clump that in for right now, that are using those mediums are gathering a larger market share than the ones that aren't.
Yeah.
And so they're building that trust because they are seen as a subject matter expert. Because anybody who sees us on this YouTube or whatever says, "Oh, well, Kristin and Fobby definitely know about building trust with young generation because they're talking about it."
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to be showing up in on social media, in using video, it is really overwhelming. I mean, speaking of overwhelm, there's so many places that you can be. And I think you really need to choose one strategy at a time. At First Home IQ, we're working with loan officers to help them lead with education, build trust through education. And we've decided next year to focus on one strategy per quarter. So we're like, for one quarter, we're going to focus on video and social media with video. Another quarter, we're going to focus on helping, reaching parents in your database, and, like really focusing in, because I think, what we have fallen prey to is this feeling of like, you got to be everywhere doing everything. And you end up running thin,
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, like people will say to me, Fob, I want to do a podcast, but I want to have it like the way you have yours. And I'm like, you guys understand, like this took me 6 seasons to put together.
Yeah.
Like I literally started, me and Josh Pitts, Josh.
Yeah.
Literally said, Fob, just take your cell phone and record yourself. And that's what I did for like, like the first few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little tripod, put my phone on there, and then hit record, and Barry came on and we talked for an hour, and we made these mistakes, but we kept moving forward. But it seems like people want that immediate, right, gratification, immediate results, and it takes time to build that trust, right? Because if we're really talking about trust, which is underlying, this is what we're really, really building today, right? Talking about today, right? Trust takes time to build. You just don't give away trust freely.
Yeah, exactly. It takes showing up consistently. And, one thing that I mean, it's so interesting thinking about the way that you're building trust as a provider, but the consumer is also working on building trust with you. And so, that just requires time and consistency. And biting off one thing at a time. Whenever I'm sharing how to build trust with consumers, I'm talking about giving them that one step and not all of the things at one time. And you have to do the same thing when you're thinking about building your brand or where you're showing up. And but one thing that I have found to be really effective, that is super, super simple, and it doesn't necessarily relate to how you create awesome video content or things like that. But in those conversations, when you validate how someone is, like, you understand how they're feeling, what they're going through, you say, what is the thing that stresses you out the most, or what's the thing that keeps you up at night, whatever it is around the mortgage process, then you validate them and you say, hey, it sounds like you're really overwhelmed. And they're like, yeah. And it's just like, when they understand that you understand them, then you become so much more valuable than any of the, YouTubers that they've been following, because you understand. So
you had a personal experience about this. I remember hearing you, I don't know if you were on stage or if I heard an interview with you somewhere where you said you had like a traumatic moment during a financial decision. You kind of spaced that, right? Wasn't that you?
Yes, I've been telling this story lately because it really was so interesting to recognize this in myself. I have so much stress around finances, and it's like I finally realized I am trying to help myself by starting companies that do this. But anyway, I had a financial planning meeting, and I usually wear an Aura ring. And during the financial planning meeting, it said I was napping. Like it fully thought I was dead, basically. And because I'd shut down so hard during that meeting, I was so stressed out that my body was like, yeah, we're out of here. So I so understand.
What did your financial consultant do to bring you back into the conversation? Like, or did he leave you alone to take a nap?
Yeah. So actually, at one point he asked, are you the kind of person that wants to know what time it is or how the watch is made? And I was like, please tell me what time it is. Hearing this information, I'm shutting down. And so we got to the point, and I was able to take away, I fully blacked out in that meeting, I'm sure. Like, I don't know that I remember anything, but I knew what my next steps were, so that's it. That's all you got to, I felt validated. I felt like I knew what to do next.
So really, as loan officers, if you're dealing with especially the younger generation, right? I mean, I don't know what the younger generation is anymore. Look, I'm 58. Like, I'm done figuring. Like, I remember when the age of the average loan officer was above me. Now it's like way below me.
It happens quick.
Yeah, it happens quick, dude. It's like overnight. I mean, but so I don't know what generation we're talking about, but whatever generation it is, when we're talking about young buyers coming into the market, it's about supporting them and making them feel like they're part of the decision-making process. Is that really important?
Yeah, so they're wanting to feel empowered, but they're also not wanting to feel alone. So I think in the past, when I first started doing this maybe 10 years ago, we were talking about like empowering the consumer, giving them information. And that's one piece of it, but you don't want to give them too much information, and you also don't want them to feel alone. So I think it's validating how they're feeling, giving them that one step that's their next step, and then consistent follow-up. Because I think having the next scheduled meeting, even if there's nothing to say, just like saying, okay, all right, let's meet, next Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. You have that eases the anxiety of the consumer.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a financial literacy gap because of in the generation? Like, do you think like people had better financial literacy, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago? Or, I mean, what's your
I
opinion on
think
that?
I think our financial situations became more complex. And so I think that's one piece of it. I also think we probably haven't become more financially literate, or less, but I think in previous years the home ownership rate was higher. So as you buy a home, that's like the best or strongest point when people are learning all of the financial things that they didn't learn in school, and so if the homeownership rate has now risen to, or the average age of a first-time homebuyer has now risen to age 40, then they're not learning this stuff for the most part beforehand.
Now, you come from a mortgage family,
I do, yes.
right?
Yeah,
So
my
like,
dad is in the.
yes, yeah. So like my kids come from a mortgage family, right? So my
Mhm.
daughter, she's actually a counselor at a high school over here, right? And my son, he's now working in the mortgage business with me for last 3 years.
Mm.
But I don't think either one of them would know what a down payment, like what's the requirement for. And I think my son probably does today more than he did 3 years ago. But did you have an understanding of like down payment and 30-year fixed versus a 15-year fixed growing up as with your parents?
I don't think so. I was really interested in how the business worked, but not in, I mean, like I said, financial things would just, it was like, if it was related to me, I would kind of shut down. I guess I was pretty interested in the financial concepts before, but I don't know. I think that people are not learning it. So actually, I just published a blog about this, like what is effective financial literacy education, and I did a ton of research on this. And people, even if they're taught this in a lecture type of thing, they're not going to learn it unless there's like a moment where they're required to learn it. So
Mm.
either a simulation or like buying a home or opening a bank account, or, those types of things that require that you are living that experience. And so that's why I've now shifted a little bit of our strategy at First Home IQ away from let's do a bunch of lecture-based stuff to let's incorporate games, activities, and when they're buying a home, this is the most crucial time for you to teach them. But yeah, because and that's why we also have the First Home IQ quiz, because I think it helps for you to take the quiz and get some things wrong to be like, oh, that's what that is. Otherwise you're not, there's no reason for you to learn it.
I mean, from First Home IQ's viewpoint, what's like one topic that is like non-negotiable that young people should be learning today?
I honestly, okay, well, I was gonna say down payment. I do think that that's important and people just do not know. But I guess the very, very basic thing would be how to build a budget. I hesitate to say that because I think budget can have negative connotations and it means different things to different people.
Mhm.
But building a healthy relationship with money, even if budget means just you see what money's coming in and what money's coming out every month, and I think that's going to set you up for success. You'll figure out all the other things if you are able to have that kind of healthy, transparent relationship with money where you're building trust in yourself,
Yeah.
and then it would go into credit and then, yeah, down payment.
It definitely feels like, I mean, look, no matter what age you're at, I mean, I remember in my 20s, you know what I mean, where like sometimes you didn't want to look at your bank account. Like, oh my God, I don't want to, because it would literally freak you out. Like, how are we going to survive like off
Yeah.
$800 for the next, 22 days? right? And
Yeah.
that stress would just like, and so sometimes it was like almost you had to look at it, feel the stress, and kind of walk through the stress.
Yeah, I think there's the stress of something bad happening because you don't have enough money, but then there's also stress of just making the wrong decision. And I think that there's for me it's stress of overwhelm. I look at something and I'm like there's a lot of decisions to make here. And there's secondly the I'm going to make a wrong decision. And those things give me this kind of paralysis around that. And so it doesn't matter how much money I have in my bank account. I'm going to feel anxiety about looking at that. So that's why I think if you develop that earlier healthy relationship around it, you're more likely to feel even in the stressful times like you can manage that.
Yeah, there's a spiritual thing that says that financial anxiety is passed generationally. And it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting, you know what I mean? Because like my parents were immigrants and I was also first generation immigrant, right? And like everything they earned, like I mean, I would know like whatever, like, no, we can't afford that. Like
Yeah.
you were told literally, no, we can't do that. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so, but growing up with my children, I made sure that they could do everything. But I feel like my daughter picked up on the DNA from her grandmother, and my son, like, he's like totally cool. Like, "Yeah, whatever dad gives you, I got it." And she's like walking around totally stressed out. You know what I mean? Even though she's got a job with the county, she's got her entire life planned out, but she's like walking on eggshells, I feel like sometimes.
Yeah, it's so interesting. My brother and I are so different around the way we relate to money. And my brother has zero problem with he wants to know where every single dollar goes, and he loves that. And I have been the person that's avoiding, and I think and we grew up in the same home, but I do think I took on my mom's history of not having enough money and of course I was more sensitive, I think, to my
Mhm.
parents being early in the business when I was young and everything was up and down, up and down. And so my brother was just like, whatever, it's fine. And so I think there's personality, there's experience. I always, when I walk through a psychology of money class, I'll have people think about what's your earliest experience around money that you can remember.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up? Like asking those questions because your early experiences shape how you relate to money today. But the other thing that I've noticed is just the way our brains work. So it's personality, but it's also like I have ADHD. So of course, like I'm going to have more sensitivity around overwhelm and decision making and things like the executive function isn't quite as strong for me. So I think understanding all of those things is really crucial to building a healthy relationship with money.
And I think that's the other part of that I think people don't understand is like, and I actually wrote a foreword for one of those rethink you everything you know about networking. And I'm so intrigued by this one anthropologist, Margaret Mead, and she said that society became a society when she first saw a healed femur, because that meant somebody cared enough to stay with this person in the jungle while their leg healed instead of leaving them there to die.
Hmm.
And that's when we became a society. It wasn't by the buildings we built or the roads we built. It was by the care of one human being to another human being.
Wow.
And I look at that today in 2025, and I'm like, okay, so as a society, we continue growing. So we're like now cognizant of somebody's mental problems or their spiritual problems or their emotional issues. And we stand around and we wait for them to heal so we can all move forward together. Uh, and, and and so it like continues to grow. And I think as lenders and in the mortgage industry, we need to be cognizant of the newer generation because I feel like they're more aware than we were even 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I will say, I think a lot of people push back on that. I just was doing a presentation where people were like, "Okay, this sounds nice, but like, why do we have to do that?" Like what? But I will say, it creates more efficiency for you if you do it. So even if you're not someone that generally wants to hear how someone feels about this experience, I will tell you. And when I started my career as a social worker, I found that I was going through appointments way faster when I would put away my clipboard. I would just face my client and ask them, like build trust with them. And once I did that, they were answering really truthfully and quickly, and we got through appointments. They didn't ask I was happy for them to ask questions, but they weren't asking as many because they had trust in me. So, and it's been the same with those that apply this, I think, in the industry.
I mean, it really comes back to, I mean, it's always like, Todd Duncan wrote a book, High Trust Selling, and we all go back to the same thing, is like, you got to build the trust. So if the newer generation has a new way of building trust, then as salespeople, we have to learn how to adapt to that. Otherwise, you're going to find that you're not going to have any business. It's as simple as that. I mean, the average age of the homeowner is like, 36 now or something. And so it's like, if you can't build that trust with a 36-year-old, you're going to be left out in the dark. And might as well start working on some AI projects like I did.
Those are fun.
Yeah, they can be. So listen, Kristin, I don't want you to wait another 5 years to come join us again.
Yes, I'll try to check my messages. Now you can text me. So
this was so enjoyable. I love learning from you. This was really, really good. And there's so much more that we could learn from you. So please come back soon. Okay.
Back at you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, buddy. I'm going to get out of here. I think once again, JP's not here. I have no idea what the hell I'm going to push here, Kristin. We're going to find out if this cool. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, but
I love it.
I hope everything works. By the way, I saw your dog walking behind you. Didn't she just celebrate 14 years?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, 14 years.
I heard her little chain jingle in the back. I was like, wow, Kristin's got a great microphone.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So my dog is going to turn 14 in 13 days on the 26th.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
By the way, listen to this. He's going absolutely crazy. Like, we started this new supplement with him.
Oh, tell me.
And he's doing 5.5 to 6 miles an hour jogging with me at a time.
What? I have to know the supplement.
Let me end this show and I'll tell.
Okay.
I'll text you the pictures. I don't know their names, but I'll text you the pictures. It was something my doctor, his vet said, look, stop buying this commercial stuff. This is the veterinarian grade supplement. In 3 weeks, it changed his entire life.
Wow. That is exciting.
Are you ready? Let's see if this button works, Kristin. Ready?
Right,
Just hang tight, okay? So